Roger. Go for deploy.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome back to Adventure Fit Radio. Today we've got a special treat for you. Everybody's favourite CrossFitter in the world, Chris Spiller.
Tom it. Oh.
Chris is a friend of mine, good buddy.
Is he?
Yeah.
One of your best mates?
Yes.
Best man of your wedding?
Really, best man
of your wedding?
He's going to be, yep.
Really?
I haven't told him because I want it to be a surprise, but he's going to be best man. It's going to be great. So we have Chris Spiller. Chris is a 7-time CrossFit Games athlete. Competed at the first ever CrossFit Games. Came second, I think, in 2007 or 8. And just an all-round good guy. One of the great minds in CrossFit too. Really just really pragmatic about his approach and left no stone unturned. Also worked for CrossFit HQ for 10 years and he's owned his gym for 10 years, which is successful.
Left no barbell uncleaned.
Left no barbell uncleaned.
Yeah.
Very poetic there, mate.
Thank you.
Well done.
We are but specks of dust in the wind.
So you're going to love this one, guys. It was a quick chat because Chris is a busy man, but it was plenty of fun. So
for sure,
we're brought to you today by True Pride, guys. True Pride are a wealth creation service who focus in on working with ambitious individuals and families looking to worry less, take control, and get ahead. If you want to try out True Pride, head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF. And you'll get a $297 joining fee waived if you decide to go ahead. Book a phone call, have a chat, see if they can help you. I'm sure they can. There's many different ways that they can help anybody, and check it out from there. Also, we're brought to you by Carve. Carve is a company that specializes in anything digital, from building apps, designing a logo, automating your business, down to setting up your next event. Check out Carve at www.carve.ph/ADVF and get 10 hours free on any project. I've set about 5 or 6 people up with Carve now, and they are loving it, guys. And that ranges from tradesmen to retail store owners to CrossFit gym owners to a protein supplier. It's going well for everybody involved, so check it out yourself. Upscale your business. We're also brought to you by Adventure Fit Travel. Head to www.adventurefittravel.com/nothing. head to Adventure Fit Travel. Check out all of our trips we got coming up. We've got Bali with Carl Paoli. We've got Mexico with Jared Fleming. We've got Kokoda Trek coming up for all you Aussies and Kiwis that might be interested in that, and a bunch more cool stuff. If you want to book in on a trip, use the code RADIO for 10% off. Here's the show. Alrighty, guys, here we are. We are back, and we have Chris Spiller joining us from Park City, Utah. Before we throw over to Chris, I have Tommy next to me as usual, and he's going to start the show with Tommy's tribute.
Alrighty, welcome aboard, Chris.
Thanks, man.
The song I've decided to cover is "Jumper" by Third Eye Blind, because I recently just watched Yes Man, and it sort of appears in that one, so we'll give it a go.
Nice, sounds good.
Sweet. I wish you were not so fit and strong, my friend. You could come back and show the world what a lad you are. And if you wanted to give me some free shit, I would understand. I would understand. Well, his name is Spill, he's a CrossFit vet. I think he has his own private jet. He's a real badass. He's competed 7 times. Bill's committed about 100 crimes. There's just no comparison. Well, everyone I know, they say they love you. My friend, you're a genuine champion. I wish you were not so fit and strong, my friend. You could come back and show the world what a lad you are. And if you wanted to give me some free shit, I really, really wanted maybe just a t-shirt. Welcome aboard.
I love it, man. Thank you. That's great.
so. Spiller balling with a private jet in the song.
That's bold.
CrossFit's paying well, apparently.
Doing very well.
Yeah, wow.
Hey, Chris, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cool. So, for the people that don't know, anyone that's a CrossFit fan, they're obviously going to know all about you. One of the most loved CrossFit athletes of all time, if not number one. For people that don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you got into CrossFit as well.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I guess I started CrossFit in 2006. I just kind of stumbled into it. A friend of mine was in the Marines, and he was kind of just an old Young Life kid that I knew from working with that organization. And stumbled into him, and he was just like, oh, you got to check out CrossFit.com. And just like most of us, I was kind of doing my own thing. And I went back home, and I looked online and found it, and I saw a workout, and I thought I would give it a shot for 6 weeks and see how it went. And I guess the rest is kind of history. I never stopped and never looked back.
Absolutely. And now it's your life. So you've got Park City. How involved in CrossFit are you these days? Obviously not training wise, but do you have anything to do with HQ, or are you just running your own box now? You're doing seminars. How's it shape your life these days?
Yeah, so I actually, kind of some big changes, but all good. It's I just recently, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, stepped away from teaching seminars for CrossFit headquarters. I did that for almost 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was great, but a lot of travel, a lot of time on the road, and I loved the work, but the travel was just after almost a decade of it was pretty tough. So I just kind of stepped away from that, and I'm working at the gym. Obviously, we have CrossFit Park City, and then probably the big focus, CrossFit Park City we will have been open this coming spring for 10 years. So that's kind of cool.
That's great,
yeah.
isn't it?
And then the big thing that I have going on now is just Icon Athlete. So it's taking all this, experience that I have from competing and my passion for getting outside of the gym and providing online programming and a resource for people that they can use as an affiliate, an athlete that just uses the CrossFit methodology or that training to get better at what they do, or athletes that are trying to go to the games. So that's like a real big focus right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that stuff probably wasn't around until really a few years ago, the whole online programming wave. We had Adi Zucker, or formerly Zucker, now Kazu, from Working Against Gravity on last week. And she, she's now built a huge stable of athletes that she works with on the nutrition side. How lucky do you feel now that you've got it's a whole nother revenue stream for you guys who have a great name in the industry that probably wasn't around, I would say, 5 years ago? There wasn't much of this going on, really, was there?
I don't think so. And I think a lot of it was just because, things were younger. And at the time, 5 years ago, people weren't quite at the point of, even exploring the option of having a coach per se. And then I think once those doors opened up of thinking, hey, well, maybe a coach can help me be better, or maybe as an affiliate owner, we can take the programming piece off of our plate so we can focus on the business more. Mm-hmm. Or for someone that's just starting out, like, hey, I need a warm up, a workout, the goal for the workout, a cool down, like just tell me what to do and I can do it. That really wasn't there. I think just because of maybe the youth of the movement, but now as things have evolved, I think it's the opportunities out there have gotten more prevalent, and there's a lot of great programs out there now.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. So you're an athlete that went without. I might be wrong in this, but you're an athlete that went without a coach for a good portion of your career. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. Since I started in the first games I went to was in 2007, and I didn't have a coach until 2012, and that's when I reached out to Ben Bergeron.
And how did it differ? Because I remember there used to be a lot of athletes that wouldn't have coaches, and then now it's kind of, I don't think there's too many, but it's like pretty much across
shifting a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems to me like it's nearly across the board. Everyone's got coaches. How did it? Why for you did you change? You're a 5-time by that stage or whatever games veteran. How come you decided to go and get a coach? What do you think What do you think was the catalyst to make you want to change and have someone doing all the programming and telling you what to do?
I think a couple things. One is at that point, the evolution of CrossFit was weights were getting heavier, gymnastics kind of wasn't moving anywhere, and I needed help. I had done some strength cycles and worked with a guy. His name was Chris Mason, and he is like a West Side Barbell guy. And I worked with him a little bit to help me with some strength cycles, but he didn't know CrossFit, and he was really helpful. But that carryover wasn't quite enough of what I needed for being able to move heavy weight rep after rep. So part of it was that I just needed help because I wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yep.
And then the other piece is just knowing my personality, is I'm just an athlete that I like not having to think. I like to be like, hey, Chris, if you do A, we're pretty sure you'll get B. Not guaranteed, but we're pretty sure. It's like, hey, give me the work. If you tell me to run through a brick wall, I'll do that. If you tell me to chew on some concrete, I'll do that. Like whatever, just tell me what I need to do and I'll do it. I just work well with that because then I can focus on all the other outside variables that really, truly matter now.
Yeah, for sure.
And was that something where before training with a coach, you were just sort of going to the gym and doing your own thing by yourself, like behind closed doors, and obviously when you finally got a coach, was like, oh, there's more people around me, there's someone that's keeping me accountable. Did that sort of help you a bit as well? So before I had a coach, I would just go in and do things that I felt like doing, or not so much felt like doing. I challenged myself a lot, but I would just kind of go by feel. Here's how my body feels, so here's the work that I'm going to do today. Here's how much I want to work out. Here's how long I want to work out. And at the time, I would just kind of do that on my own or jump in with some friends if they were working out at the gym. But once I actually started getting coached from Ben, it's funny just because of, I think, my circumstances and my situation, I worked out by myself probably even more until about 2014. Right.
Yeah, just because most of the stuff that I was doing, people were like, well, I'm not going to do that.
You're on your own, man.
Yeah, right. So the volume and the loading and things like that. And although it's completely scalable, I worked out by myself a lot. And then the times that I had working out with other athletes were usually at an event, if it was with like Rogue or Progenics or Reebok, and we kind of had those athletes there. That's where I got the exposure to just being with the other guys.
Yeah, right. So, cool. So with the obviously you started CrossFit and then pretty much straight into the games nearly were you at the first ever CrossFit Games?
I was.
Yes. So how did do you think it's crazy how the sport's evolved since then? Like you look at the old videos and particularly you can look at a number of things, the movements, and the way people look moving weight, and then the weight that they're moving compared to now. How crazy is it for you looking back at where you started and then now competitively you've finished up and it's still going further and further? How crazy is it for you to look at the comparison of how far it's come in 10 years?
Yeah, it's pretty surreal to think about where it started and how much it's evolved over the course of the past decade. It's funny, I was working out in the gym the other day and I forget what I was doing, but I was doing some lifting, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I remember when I first started CrossFit, and I remember when I almost broke my spine trying to clean 195.
Yeah.
And like it's just crazy to think that like that was a challenge for me then, and like how far all of us have evolved as athletes. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think it's really funny that, especially with weightlifting numbers, because 5 years ago you would look at people and they were, snatching 100 kilograms was huge. Wow, those guys can snatch 100 kilograms. 130 kilogram clean and jerk was pretty impressive. And but I always thought that there would be a ceiling on that. And then the further time goes by, there's not really a ceiling yet.
But do you reckon there'll be a ceiling in the next 5 to 10 years now? Now
maybe,
the numbers are really starting.
Guys are snatching 135 kilograms now, like medium-sized guys, and then some guys clean and jerk 160, 170. Like that's pretty good. That's pretty good national level.
Weightlifting.
It's not world level, but it's like some really high-level, national-level weightlifters that are coming straight out of CrossFit. I really wonder where it's going to go in 5 or 10 years' time. Are we going to have CrossFit athletes that are legitimately podiuming in national weightlifting meets? And what do you think about that, Chris?
I mean, I think that right now, that depending on what country you're in, that because there's so much weightlifting involved in CrossFit, and because, like, let's be honest, the weightlifting community is incredibly small, you know? So, like, for, like, when did we know about Olympic lifting until we started doing CrossFit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's like nobody really knows about it. So I think depending on what country you're in and how strong the lifting is there, just the pure exposure to doing it frequently is going to create opportunities for athletes to do well on the national level. I do think there's a ceiling. I absolutely do. And I think we're getting close to it depending on what happens with the program.
Yeah.
And I think that athletes, if there's going to be a ceiling, athletes will have to be challenged more with the endurance-oriented and like higher skill gymnastics movements. Otherwise, like, because the reality is, like, we have people that are national level weightlifters, you know, but if they went into like a 6-year-old gymnastic class, they would get schooled. And
100%.
so it's a bit lopsided in that sense. But I do think they are ever evolving and trying to challenge athletes to the best of their ability.
And especially as well because, you know, CrossFit is a sport of variance, and you have to do, like you said, so many other things. We have to be good at, you know, butterfly pull-ups and endurance events and all this sort of stuff. And with all that in mind, there's only so heavy you can go with a barbell before you have to, you know, increase your weight and obviously slow down on the other sides. But I think, do you think on that the gymnastics side of CrossFit, and I'm referring specifically to the games, will really start to be challenged more? Like, you're going to see more advanced moves being thrown into events and things?
I hope so, but it's also really difficult to measure. You know, so if you think about CrossFit in the sense of this measurable, observable, repeatable program where a barbell is easy to do that. You know, you lifted X amount, it moved this range of motion, and you did this many reps, but how do you measure, like, let's just get like way outside the box. How do you measure an iron cross?
Yeah.
You know, so I wonder if that's gonna prevent them. But I mean, can you imagine if they were like, okay, the event is opening up with a 5-second iron cross into, you know what I mean? Like into 5 ring handstand push-ups, and then Ted deadlifts at 405 and what, you know what I mean? Like,
it's just insane.
I just don't know if that's a measurable thing.
Yeah.
And then you see events like at the games this year where they try to introduce the ring handstand push-up, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, holy buckets, you know, we're way off, you know? Like, we're not even
ugly
close
to watch.
to doing it.
So that ring handstand push-up one was so hard for the judges too. That was impossible. We were standing there kind of watching it, and just, it looked bad because of the inconsistencies from the judges, but it wasn't the judges' fault. And it wasn't CrossFit HQ's fault either. It was just an impossible...
Because it's strict in a sense you had to keep your legs straight, wasn't it? Is that what so you couldn't kip?
Right. I think your legs couldn't. I think your legs couldn't bend. You know, they couldn't climb up. So I love the intention.
Yes.
Right. The intention is there, but I think they're still learning what's the real application there, and then how do we measure it most fairly? And I think that's still a learning process for everyone involved.
Yeah. For sure. There was some of those handstand push-ups. They look like regular push-ups, like bench press kind of. Their bodies were leaned out on that much of an angle, but they were held in by the rope. So it was like, technically the body's kind of straight, but it's on the wrong plane.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question, and we don't need to go on about this or delve too deeply into it, but I want to ask somebody that's at the very high echelon of the sport. So with the Glock controversy with the at the CrossFit Games this year, Chris, like I'll tell you what I think about it, and then you can tell me what you think about it. But I think CrossFit have a really they have this thing that they like to do to razz up people on social media and to cause controversy, and whether that's a marketing ploy or not, I think it's really disrespectful in a lot of ways, not just this particular instance, but to all the affiliate owners out there, because a lot of people obviously build their livelihood on the CrossFit brand, which has been so good for them in a lot of ways. But then, obviously, Americans love the guns. Let's not beat around the bush. But for a lot of the other nations around the world, it was kind of like a really shocking, kind of shocking prize and sponsor. And then it was more the afterwards, the posts that were coming out from Dave Castro and from Matty Fraser and everybody that were kind of stirring the pot even more. What do you think about like the direction that CrossFit's taking with that? Can't be good for branding and for the affiliate owners out there. Or do you have a stance on it?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm American and I do support gun rights. I do, and I own firearms, and I do think that, I do think that there are, I'm in full support of having background checks and making sure that, the right people own firearms. I'm in full support of that, but I also support the right to own one, and so for me, I look at it in this two kind of folded thing. Like, I support that thought process of like, hey, we have the right to bear arms as Americans, and I support that. And I do think that owning a firearm is an incredibly high responsibility that people need to be held accountable for. I think that we should have the right to do that, but I also think that people maybe underestimate the responsibility of what that looks like. And that's really important to address that. So for me, when I look at it at first glance, I'm like, wow, what a cool prize. Like, I could win a Glock. Like, that's cool, And then I think the difficult part is when that post came out, the timing of it, because of what had happened. I think it was the nightclub in Florida. Yeah. When there was the shooting there. So that it was the timing of it and the presentation of it. I do think there is a way to be more tactful and more aware of how that affects affiliate owners, gym members, the community in general. And I think that that was difficult. I think that could have been handled better. I don't know how else to say it other than I get it in the sense that I think it is, I do think it's legitimately cool that we have the right. I think it's I think it's a privilege that we have that right, and I think we need to be responsible with it, like I said, but I think that could have been handled much better. And as we look at those things, like, how does it, like you guys said, like, how does that, maybe taking a second before we hit the post button and say, okay, how does this affect everyone involved? And not just what I think about it, but how does it affect everybody involved? And I think that could be done maybe a little bit more tactfully.
Alrighty, guys, we're just going to halt the show for a quick second and have a quick word from our sponsors. So firstly, we are sponsored by True Pride. So True Pride are a wealth creation service who work with ambitious individuals and families looking to take control, worry less, and get ahead. Now, I've been using True Pride, guys. I've been using the software that Big Craig provides. It's CashFit. It's great software. It's basically just a really, really, really easy way just to have a look at your budget and have a look at the categories that the most of your spending is going towards. I'm spending way too much on food and dining, and I've cut that back. And by identifying that, I've already saved I'm up to about $90 a week now. So if you are in the same boat, guys, head to www.truepride.com.au/ADVF. You will get the $297 joining fee waived as well when you call via the website. The next one, guys, is Carve. So Carve is a company that specializes in anything digital, from building apps, designing a logo, automating your business, down to setting up your next event. It is a partner when you want to have more time to focus on the things you love and scale your business. Now, Bill, you've set a few people up with Carve. How have they gone?
Good. They were only just starting out early days, but like I said earlier, we've had a retail store that have been stoked. They've been able to outsource tons of their stuff that they don't want to do. We've had a protein supplier, the Naked Co, who are getting set up with Carve. A tradesman friend of mine's being set up with Carve. Alex Chong's working with Carve now from CrossFit U in West Melbourne. So anything that you don't like doing in your business, then you can outsource that, guys, and you can focus on the bigger things. So you can either upscale your business, do more if you've got the money to pay for it, or get some more time back in your life if you've got the money to make it easier on yourself. So head to www.carve.ph/ADVF, get 10 free hours, and enjoy.
Back to the show.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's by and large it's a normal thing for Americans, and for the rest of the world, I think the rest of the world were kind of like furrowing their brows. But we don't need to spend too much more time on that. I just wanted to kind of get your get your read on it. So what are you doing now, Chris? Like, what's your training look like now in comparison to like the last year that you were still competing at games level? What are you doing day to day now?
Yeah, I mean, really, I either work out with a class because I really enjoy the environment of being able to work out with my friends and having the community environment, or I do an Icon workout. And I usually just work out an hour a day. You know, I don't spend much more time doing that. I try to get outside and ride my bike when I can. I'm looking forward to the ski season coming up and getting out on the hill. So those are really a big priority for me now, and I let my training kind of guide that so that it doesn't just take away from it.
Awesome. So how did that compare to, let's put it into perspective, because obviously you've got a young family, and that's probably, I imagine that's probably what really took you away from the sport. But I'll put it this way, like what did a day in the life of Chris Spiller look like in your last year of competition?
Yeah, so I was still teaching seminars, and I would generally, I was doing that anywhere between 3 and 4 weekends a month. So I would travel every Friday and every Sunday night or Monday morning. So I would take Fridays and Sundays off because of travel days. Monday or Tuesday through Thursday were like my big volume days, and generally it was, I would go to sleep when I was tired. I wouldn't set up an alarm. I'd just wake up whenever I woke up. Eat some breakfast, take my son to school around 9 o'clock, roll to the gym, start training at about 9:30. And then I usually wouldn't stop until about 1:30 or 1:45 and just go get my son at school at about 2 o'clock, go home. Once I was home, I would usually take about an hour nap and lay on the couch in like Normatec boots, foam roll, eat more food, hang out. Just try to like lay low and recover and then do it all over again the next day. So I think people underestimate the time and effort that those athletes put into it, not just in the gym, but the lifestyle they choose to live outside of the gym so that they can sustain it.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. So, well, that sounds like a heavy workload, but you never did, did you go into the gym twice a day for a portion there? Were you doing double days or anything like that, or it was always kind of one and done, just one big session for you?
So I usually set it up in that one big session just so I could spend more time with the family. So it was kind of that 9 to 2. But there were definitely times throughout the season, depending on when, that I might be there, 9 to 12 and then go back in, or have to, go back and do a swim workout that night. So yeah, there were times where I would do 2 or 3 sessions in a day. But that just depended on really my schedule and the volume that I was dealing with.
And this is going to sound like a weird question, but when you were training for the games and you were training with that much volume, did you enjoy it? Like, talk us through the mental side of it when you were going through it.
What's funny is like when you get to that point of, okay, especially this window between regionals and the games, that's generally when we saw the most volume, at least I did. And it's this kind of cool period of time because you've made it to the games, so you're very excited about that. The hard work you've put in so far has paid off to get you there, but you still have these goals at the games. For some, I know for me, by the last year, it wasn't to win. I knew I wasn't in a position to win unless the programming was pretty slanted toward a guy that was 36'5" with my shoes on and 145. So for me, I enjoyed that time of year because it was just like things were so focused, and I would generally stop teaching seminars for about a month there and just train. And that's when I would drag like a lot of my friends into the gym. And there's a guy, Ryan, at the gym. He trains with us now. And I would just drag him in and do the workouts with me all the time. And he was a total stud and just like dealt with it. And he's a college kid at the time and just like came in and worked out with me. Even if he just got smashed, he'd just work out with me. I was like, Ryan, I'll see you tomorrow at this time. Or, you know, and it's just a cool time of year because your hard work has paid off, but it's not done yet. So you're still very motivated. And I enjoyed that. I really did.
And it probably wouldn't have been as stressful as the in between the open to regional stage, I suppose, because once you've gotten through the regionals, I mean, like you say, you weren't particularly focusing or thinking that you were going to win it. So it was more of a celebration of training. Is that fair to say? Because I imagine the open to the regionals would be quite stressful because regionals are like a mini game.
Oh, apparently, and you obviously the mindset is you have to prove yourself every single year that you still got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regionals was way more stressful than the games. And part of it is just that everyone had the same workouts and we had time to practice them or time to improve on them. So, you know, you have guys that are just like repeating the workouts again and again, rightly so, right? Because they're trying to improve on their weaknesses and get better. But it's just like by the time you get there, it was just, I'm so ready to be done. Like, I'm so ready to be done with these workouts. And, you know, I'm so ready to like not have to worry about this competition. And regionals, hands down, is for those athletes that are really gunning for the games, regionals is more stressful than the games. For sure.
So what about like touching on when you actually have workouts that are announced? What is your mindset with that? Do you go out, like not in the open per se, but maybe for regionals, do you go out and break it down piece by piece and time this part of the workout and this part of the workout? Do you do the whole workout? Do you do the whole workout 10 times? Like how do you prepare when you know which workout's coming up?
Yeah, for me, I would do the workouts as they came out. So I would kind of run through the mock regionals because they release them, you know, one day they release the 2 workouts the next day. So we would do them in that order. And then once I did all the workouts and kind of got a feel for them, generally instead of repeating the entire workout, depending on what it is, we would work on pieces of the workout. So I'm trying to think, like an example of that in 2014, there was, I think it was like that 21, 15, 9, 6, and 3, or 21, 15, 9, 6 of handstand push-up, front squat, and burpee over the bar.
Yep.
So I did the workout in its entirety, and then I would do pieces of it. Like I would do 25 handstand push-ups right into 25 front squats at 195. Or, you know, like the heavy, the heavy nasty girls where we did like muscle ups, pistols, and the hang power cleans at 175. So I would do like, I remember one of the workouts being on the minute for, I want to say it was 5 minutes. The first minute was 10 unbroken ring muscle ups. And then every minute after that was 10 hang power cleans at 175 on the minute.
Right.
So, you know, working the elements that I needed to improve upon without doing the entire workout.
Yeah. So just building the volume in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, cool. So did you have any, so you were pretty kind of renowned for being able to grind out workouts well and being able to pace really well. And did you have anything that you do before a workout to get your mind ready for the workout that you were going to go through or tell us about if you had any mindset practices, and also tell us about if you had any real game plan, if you were like, right, this is what I've got to do, and I'm going to break it up into this, and this. And what was going on through your mind when you're at the games, when you're at regionals for a big workout, a big event? I mean, they're all the same. They're all big.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think, you know, for me, if I knew what the workouts were, like regionals, I would do some visualization. So generally, like when I woke up in the morning, as things got closer, I would kind of walk through the workout in my mind, and just from start to finish, everything from like the warm up to walking out, and you know, how I was going to break things up and what the venue was going to be like. So just to be more comfortable when I was there and feel more prepared. I knew my body well enough that I could pace things pretty well without having to put too much thought into it. I had done so many workouts that I knew, if I had a 225 clean, that I couldn't do more than sets of 3. Otherwise, I'd explode. And by the time I accumulated 15 reps, I should probably go to singles. So I knew all that stuff and just put that into practice with whatever came out. So yeah, there is a big piece of that mental side that I really relied on as I went through the competitions. Where I struggled with was generally at the games when they would program the things that were like really outside the box of your classic CrossFit stuff. Yeah, I struggled with that stuff. Like I generally wasn't a real good athlete when it came to like hauling around the sandbags and slamming in the stake. And, that's the stuff that I had a difficult time strategizing. And I found myself struggling with more than others.
What do you think about all that stuff? Like, are you a big fan of the pegboard, the pegboard style event? Like,
that looked tough.
Yeah, I was there watching it in the first year.
Yeah.
And no offense to the female side of the field, the guys struggled through it. Yeah, the females just stared at the board.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the first 3 heats, there was probably 2 or 3 chicks that got up the. And are you a big fan of these oddball events, or do you think we should kind of stay in the lane of barbells and gymnastics movements? What do you feel on that all?
Well, first, like when you think about just that experience for those athletes, the volume that they had under their belt going into that and the amount of pulling that they had was pretty significant. So I think a lot of those athletes could have climbed the pegboard had it been earlier.
Absolutely.
Having said that, they were fucked.
Yeah. So having said that, I do think the fittest athletes in the world should be able to climb a pegboard even when they're tired.
Yeah.
I think pegboards are cool, but it's probably just because I used them when I was a kid wrestling. So I do like when they bring some of the things that are a little bit outside of the norm, like the 100-pound dumbbell squat snatch. I like that. The kettlebell deadlift and farmer's carry. I like that. I personally, the pig, like when they had to flip the pig, that's cool.
That's a good one.
Personally, I'm not a big fan when things just get outside of the box, and that's just a preference as a fan.
Yeah.
I just like classic CrossFit. It's just more exciting for me, and I think I relate to it better. I appreciate it more, and that's just my preference. So I like to watch those things, even though I know there's value behind some of the stuff that's outside the box.
It's kind of that thing of, as a spectator, what you want to see, you want to be drinking beer and watching someone, do a 130 kilo snatch and everyone gets around him, and it's just really cool for the fan, for the spectatorship, as opposed to introducing something which is in the definition of CrossFit. There's something that's functional and varied, but it's not as exciting,
And you haven't done it before.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't know. You're like, oh, that looks difficult.
Yeah,
but
I'll give it a go.
I don't know. I reckon you don't have that frame of reference, whereas you know that doing 50, 100 kilo deadlifts or whatever is brutal. But
I guess for finding the fittest on earth, someone who is the fittest on earth should be pretty good at just being able to do something off the bat. So I guess they probably in the future have to keep throwing those things in with the expectation that come next year, for example, with ring handstand push-ups, that people are going to be able to knock them out like muscle-ups, for example.
Yeah, I think that they're always going to have those outside elements in, and I think that's part of the fun of the games, is there's really no, like, how do you prepare for something that you've never done? So it's, I think we need to separate what the test is from what our preferences as fans are, because the test is, if they're really going to try to find the fittest, then the test has to be as broad and general and as inclusive as possible. And that may not always lend well to, the flow of the workout or the visual aspect. And I think that's probably the toughest part of probably what they have to do with programming for the games is, okay, how do we do these events and still create that visual appeal? Because let's face it, that's a piece of the event now. Is how does it look on TV, and how does it look when they're moving down the field? How do they know who's in first place? That's a whole
production,
other piece of the programming. Yeah, that I have no idea how I would approach it.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, we know we only got you for a certain amount of time today. You got to get out and coach some more classes. I want to ask one more question on CrossFit Games stuff. Tell us about your worst moment at the CrossFit Games. Surely something comes to mind.
Man. Yeah, it is Pendleton. In 2012 when I had to do Pendleton, that's stuff that I've notoriously been good at. I was trying to win it because I knew it was going to, be important for the rest of the weekend. And I started out, and I don't know why. I normally always took my wedding ring off and put it on my watch because I didn't want to lose it, or it just annoyed me with the barbell. But for that event, I was like, okay, I'm not grabbing a barbell. I just want my wedding ring on as like a reminder of, partly why I do this and just to keep me calm. Like, here's what really matters.
Yep.
And started running, going in the water, getting ready to put my fins on. And in 6 inches of water and my wedding ring slipped off my finger. And I see it for this brief moment and it's gone. It's in the Pacific Ocean, So I have this moment of panic and I'm like, oh my, holy crap. Like I just lost my wedding ring, But then I have this moment of, well, there's clearly nothing I can do about that. So I go to get in the water and I have my goggles on my head and I see this wave coming. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn my back to it because I don't want my goggles get knocked off. The wave hits the back of my back and my head, and my goggles just go flying forward. So now I've lost my goggles, and I'm like, holy crap, I just lost my goggles, and I haven't even started the swim yet. So I think it was like a 750-meter swim, and now I don't have goggles. I've lost my wedding band. Finally get through the swim, get out of the water. And when we got onto the bike, I made a turn into this sand thing and I crashed on the bike and my handlebars turned sideways, spun sideways on the stem. So I had to stop and fix that. And then when I started the run, that's when I got these horrible cramps that I had never really experienced before. And I went from third place to last place in the course of that 6-mile run, and I think I had to walk 3.5 miles of it. It was horrible.
That's actually like the perfect way to start your CrossFit Games campaign.
It's actually so interesting.
Right?
Just
first event.
Yeah, it's already gone. Just to this summer
first
recently.
Event of the weekend. Way to go.
Yeah, I went down to the beach and actually found a pair of goggles and a wedding ring that said Mr. and Mrs. Spiller forever. And I didn't actually put two and two together at the time, but you're not going to get that back.
Never again. Yeah.
He's still single to this day, actually. But
yeah.
I just wear it.
Yeah, cool. Hey, Chris, we want to quickly get 6 from 6. 6 questions, 3 from me, 3 from Tommy, and then we'll you can plug some stuff and then we'll get you out of here. But we'll do them nice and rapid fire. So today, my first question is your favourite travel destination on the planet. Anywhere you've been, what's your favourite spot?
Kauai.
Kauai. That's in Hawaii, right?
Got it.
Cool. Yeah, cool. Why's that?
It's just beautiful. It's kind of like a little bit of mom and pop style too. It's smaller. It's not as touristy, and it reminds me kind of like of the Park City version of Paradise in Hawaii.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Nice one. And the next question's similar vein, except it's dream destination, somewhere you haven't been yet that you're just hanging to get to.
Oh, man, that's a good question. I would love to go, I think, to Alaska or way up in British Columbia, way up there, and get some just killer skiing in.
Cool. Nice one. And any books that you recommend to people on a regular basis?
Not really, but I think there's a couple that have kind of stuck to my mind. There's one called Blue Lake Jazz. That's a cool book. And then there's another one called Through Painted Deserts. And then a third one actually called The Shack. All those are pretty cool reads. The Shack, I really enjoyed that.
Shack sounds good, yeah.
Cool. Tommy, you're up.
Alrighty, I'm up. Chriso, biggest role model or inspiration growing up as a kid?
Oh, man, growing up as a kid, I don't know that I really had one until I kind of got into high school. And the first time I really experienced that inspiring thing, I saw the University of Iowa wrestling team. And those guys kind of got my brain wired to work hard. Beautiful.
I've never got into wrestling, but everyone I speak to absolutely loves it. I've got to start wrestling. You want to wrestle now?
Yeah. All right. Stop.
What do you like to do now? I understand you're a very busy man. What do you like to do when you have some downtime, apart from spend time with the family? That's an easy one.
Yeah, winter, like to ski, and then summer, downhill mountain biking.
Beautiful. Lovely. And finally, if you could invite 3 people, dead or alive, to have dinner with you, who would they be and why? 3 people from the history of time that you'd love to meet.
My goodness, that's a good question. Let's see. 3 people, dead or alive.
Dead or alive, yes.
My grandfather, because I never met him. He died before I was born, and I've heard like all these awesome like athletic epic stories about him. So my grandfather, I think that'd be really cool to meet him and just see what he was like. Jesus, I think that would be awesome to sit down to dinner and be like, hey bro, what's the deal? What's going on with this?
We're running short on wine.
Yeah,
Can you
give me
just
some
fill
wine.
Yeah, right. And then I'm trying to think of a third. I think the third, gosh, I don't know. Those are like the 2 that strike me right off the bat. But a third, I don't know why. Abe Lincoln is coming to mind, and I think it's probably because that's what my kid would say is they just want to meet Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
Really?
Have you got an Abe Lincoln impersonation for us?
I have none because I'm not even close to that tall, and I don't have a hat that cool.
Yeah. Do you know what's really funny? A lot of people say Jesus, and then a lot of people also say at the same table they'd love to have Hitler there, and then just Jesus give him an absolute pounding.
Right.
Come on, mate, you shouldn't have done that.
Right, not a bad, yeah. Let's see if there was a way to prevent all that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, cool, Chris. So where can people find you? Any links, any websites, any social medias?
So really just social medias, C Spieler. That's on Instagram and Twitter. Icon Athlete, that's also on Instagram. And then iconathlete.com. That's the website with the programming that we're doing now, and really trying to gear it toward a broad range of people. Everything from they want to compete to the affiliate owner to guys that are in my position now that just love to get outside and put their fitness to use. So if you guys have questions, we're trying to make it a really big resource, just a valuable one for the community that anybody can go to. So check out that, iconathlete.com, and that's really it.
Cool, man.
Awesome,
well, thanks a lot for coming on the show, Chris.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Cool. And that's a wrap. Alrighty, that was the show. Chris Spieler, what a ledge, hey?
What an absolute heath.
What an absolute legend.
What an absolute hubi.
What an absolute humal matzakas.
What an absolute
So if you like the show, guys, if this is your first time listening, then go ahead and subscribe in iTunes and stay up to date with what we're doing. If you're a long-time listener, go ahead and send us a nice, lovely 5-star rating and review. That'd be good. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
And if you're a long-time listener, first-time caller, we don't know how you did that because we don't have any phones.
Also, guys, if you liked anything from the show in terms of what we spoke about and there was any resources that you want to look up, head to www.adventurefittravel.com/radio. It's radio now on the website.
Correct.
And also make sure you check out our sponsors. So head to Carve, www.carve.ph/ADVF. Carve will get 10 free hours on any project, guys, if you go through that link. Head to True Pride, www.truepride.com.au/ADVF to get your budget sorted. Save yourself $600 a month by spending $97 a month. That's Craig's average. And also adventuretravel.com. That's it from us. See you next week.
But actually, just quickly, we won't see them next week. They'll just be hearing us.
Well, you'll hear us next week.
Much better.
Gotcha.
Discovery Roger, go for deploy.